Hi, this is Shawnee Lavender, and welcome to the Thriving Family Summit. I work with conscious moms worldwide to create more joy, peace, and connection in family life. It is my great honor today to introduce you to our featured guest visionary and parent, Shelly Lefkoe. Now, before I welcome Shelly, I want to tell you about her. For those of you that may not know her, I know a lot of you will, but some of you won't, so let me read some of her bio for you. Shelly Lefkoe is a co-founder and vice president of the Lefkoe Institute, a San Francisco Bay Area firm whose mission is to significantly improve the quality of life on the planet by having people recreate their lives and live as the unlimited possibilities they are. Shelly is the author of Parenting the Lefkoe Way, a 7-CD guide to effective parenting, and co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul Guide to Effective Parenting. Her personal vision is to transform the way people parent. She believes that if we raise a conscious generation of children, violence will end, people will treat each other with respect and dignity, and life on this planet will be better for everyone. Shelly, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Shawnee. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I've invited you here as both a visionary and a parent. And so what I'd love for you to do is share a story from your own life of one of your less stellar parenting moments. And as you do that, tell us a little bit about who the people involved are, maybe their ages, just paint a picture of what's going on, and then share that brief story with us.
Okay. Oh, let's see. My younger daughter, Brittany, was one of these children who was like, Miss No. You know, if I said to her, Brittany, would you breathe? She'd say, no. And I was, by the time I had Brittany, I was pretty trained as to what came out of my mouth. Mm-hmm. So no matter how angry or frustrated I got, it wouldn't come out wrong. Not wrong, but it wouldn't come out in a way that she would perceive it badly. But there were times, and I think my biggest thing that I wish I could do over is when it got to the place where she was so immovable that I just couldn't, I would get up in the morning, I wasn't working, and I would just, my whole day would be, how can I, empower this child and make her life full and rich and awesome. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of the day, I'd say, would you get me a glass of water? And she'd say, no. Mm-hmm. It was just like, and so I would sometimes say to her, I was very careful not to say you are bad or you are a pain or you're difficult. Mm-hmm. But I once said to her, it is so difficult sometimes being in a relationship with you. Mm. And she created the belief that I'm difficult to be in a relationship with. And it really had an impact on her. Mm. And we, thank God, have a process that can get rid of beliefs. Right. But, and she resisted doing that for a while as well, because of course that's our work and, she had to be her own person. But, my biggest, parenting faux pas, as it were trying to be creative and get her to do things that she might not have wanted to do, and not always doing it as best as I could have. And I think that the other thing is guilt. I tried not to give her Jewish guilt, which is in my DNA.
Sure.
But occasionally I would say to her, and again in an enlightened way, but it didn't matter because where I was coming from was, Brittany, we went to the beach, we did this, we did this, we did this today. I just asked you for one thing. Mm-hmm. And she heard that as I'm bad and I'm selfish and like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I hear that, and thank you for sharing those snapshots. And I think that what you're describing, even though they have their particulars to those situations, what I'm hearing you talk about are those times in part where as parents, we have this give, and we are so focused on creating certain experiences and outcomes for our children. And yet we're human beings. And so we have those times where it's like either the tank is empty or it's just like you said, it's a simple, now can we exchange? Can you give me some energy back this way? So to me, it's a really common scenario that you're describing, and particularly for moms. Would you say that that's true, that it's something you see in the people you work with and families?
Oh, completely. And one of the things that I learned, which was very profound. This is very different. Nobody's ever really asked me to do that, particularly in the beginning of an interview. But what I really became present to is a friend of mine had, I worked with her kids. She was a very, very close friend. And I worked with all 3 of her kids who had eating disorders. I did belief work with them. None of them have eating disorders anymore. I've never charged her a penny. Her mother was a battered wife, and I helped her mother, who now is with an amazing, kind man. I worked with her. Her whole life is different. And I once asked her to stop and get me a chicken from a store that she was actually passing on the way home, because I picked up her kid every day from school because she got divorced out of the work that she and I did. Mm-hmm. And I said, our kids are best friends. I'm not working. I'll pick her up. And I said, would you mind, instead of saying, I want you to do it, I said, would you mind stopping? And she said, I'm actually really tired. I'd actually rather not. And by the time she got to my house, Shani, there was smoke coming out of my head. I was like the Exorcist. My head was spinning. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And I said to her, you got to be kidding me. And the bottom line of the story was, she looked at me and she said, there are no words that would ever express my gratitude for all that you have done for my family. Nothing. Mm-hmm. She said, but I don't owe you. She said, you did what you did because you wanted to. She said, and if I could do anything for you, I would. And you said, would you mind? Like it was no big deal. If you would have said, please do it, I would have done it. She said, but not out of that I owe you anything. She said, because you do what you do in life because you choose to, unless you set it up that way. And it changed my life. And with our children, they don't owe you anything. You are their parent. It is your job to facilitate their well-being. And if you don't want, my husband used to say, with sacrifice comes resentment. Mm-hmm. But if you want to do something and you're giving of yourself, there's no greater gift you can give a human being than to give from pure love and wanting. But so much of the time as parents, we sacrifice and then we get resentful.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so profound and so true. And I think part of my orientation is that's a cultural setup in large part. And it's also a setup that if we don't go into parenting, or if we don't pause at some point to become more conscious of what are the choices I'm making, it is easy to either repeat old patterns that we grew up with, or again, from this striving to fulfill this ideal that doesn't exist, but we think it does. So then it really does set us up for those relationships that seem imbalanced. And then we're upset when our children don't do things to please us. We're not aware of that. Usually it's an unconscious belief, but that really then sets us up for a dynamic that doesn't seem to work. And that's part of what I love about your work is it gets at those deeper issues that to me are really what we want to work on, because you can go at the surface, but you're still going to be in the same patterns.
Yeah. And before we get into my work, which is, the way I always do interviews, I want to just kind of complete this because I love that it's something new. It's very exciting to me. There's something important because I want people to not hear us like we're strict or permissive. We're giving or we're not giving. So, my kids would, there was a point when my kids would say, I'd say, did you feed the cat? Oh, I forgot. Did you do this? Oh, I forgot. Did you do that? Oh, I forgot. So instead of saying, I did this for you and that for you, here's what I did do. Mm-hmm. They came in for dinner one night and they walked into the kitchen and they said, where's dinner? And I said, oh, I forgot. And then I went, oh my God, I'm going out. I love you. See you guys later. And I left.
Mm.
The next night, they come into the kitchen and I did the same thing. And I went, oh my God, I can't believe I forgot again. And they went, got it, Mom.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. It's also, to me, part of what I like about that, Shelly, is a sense of playfulness about it. I think as parents, we often fall into that old role of lecturer and, here's why you should do these things. And kids, especially at a level where they're getting older and they're having their own, beliefs and ideas, and they're like, yeah. So they really, when you do it in a playful way too, it also helps them to go, oh, nobody's lecturing me. Nobody's saying this is how you should do it, but I get it. I get that we carry this message.
But I get that my behavior impacts others.
Yes.
So I forgot to make dinner had an impact on their lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was what I wanted them to get.
Yeah.
See, I think if children have the belief, and I'm going to use a word that my husband used because it's such a great word. If children have the belief, I am efficacious, which means I have an effect in the world. My behavior has consequences. Sometimes they're positive consequences, sometimes they're negative consequences, but I have an impact on the world. That's a very powerful belief to have, and one that we all need today. What's going on? We have to feel like we have some impact. Otherwise, we'd sit around feeling helpless,
right?
And not do anything. I went to a political meeting last night because we are going to take on a district and swing it. I'm not going to say which way. I'm sure people would be to know. But, I'm going to do what I can to make sure that Congress looks like what I would like it to look, not how it looks. And if children feel powerless, which most children, many children do as I say, because I said so, they won't do that.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up that sense of efficaciousness, because there is that sense, I think, as you're saying, children feel powerless. And also, though, I love to look at the long term of parenting, which I think is very much your perspective as well. It's like, yes, there's the here and now, which is obviously important. And these are people who you are honored to get to parent for a small window of their life in a very active, engaged way. And then they're going to go out there and they're going to live their lives. And so it really is about how are we setting them up for not success in that traditional term I think it's used as, but more fulfillment and really being able to say, I want to make an impact in this area of my life. So I love that way of thinking about parenting and how we can build our kids up.
I love you. First of all, I love what you just said. One of the things that I loved was you have the honor of parent. It makes me cry. You have the honor of parenting these children. Yeah. And that's stunning because, we feel so honored when they're born or when they're handed to us through adoption or having them or whatever it is when we get that little pink bundle, and we just are so honored to be their parent. And the next thing you know, we're screaming and yelling, get in the car! I don't get what you want.
Yeah, where'd that honor go? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
That's really awesome.
Well, and Shelly, thanks for mentioning that, because the other thing, this was one of my big shifts early on in parenting. Before I was a parent, one of my ideas was, won't it be wonderful to be a parent and have this tremendous influence on one person? And I do think that that's a neat feature of parenting. And yet very early on, through some of my experiences with my newborn daughter, I became aware, at least for me and my belief system, was that she is more the teacher than I am. I may be the guide and the orienter to this physical world. And yet she, I believe, is so much closer to source that she is healing me, guiding me. And so really, to me, that's the most wonderful part of parenting is it's this mutual relationship. It's not about, oh, I'm above her and need to teach her and mold her. It's we're spiritual equals in my viewpoint. And it makes it, for me, that's part of what takes the stress off. But I'm curious for you, and part of the summit is about reducing the stress and struggle that many parents do feel in their daily life. So what do you advise, or what are the tools or resources to help them lessen their sense of struggle or overwhelm with parenting?
I'm going to do something. Since this is going in a whole new direction, I'm going to do something I don't usually do in parenting workshops and or interviews. First of all, I love that you've done my course because I hear you say things like, I have almost a whole CD on you're not the boss of your children. You are their guardian angel. Yeah. And if you parent from you are their guardian angel, you will parent very differently than I'm the boss of you. Mm-hmm. So I want to just give a little context for what I'm about to say, because what I'm about to say is going to be like,
great. I love it. So hold tight, everybody. Hold tight.
We're going to go way out there because I think it'll be fun, and it will answer your question about how do I get rid of stress. Just want to see how far I'm going to take it.
Okay.
So for me, I have been working with people for 4 to 5 hours a day, 5 days a week for 30 years. And I work with people's problems. I work with people who are stuck, not problems like, I do work with depression and eating disorders and things like that. But for the most part, my clients have fear of public speaking, anxiety, fear of, like my last client I just hung up with in Europe, he can't tell his truth. If he speaks his truth, he'll get in trouble. He'll be rejected. He won't be accepted. My first client this morning was, I'm not lovable. Parents weren't affectionate. And so he's afraid of rejection. So, it's the everyday things that we deal with in life. Mm-hmm. And the premise of my work is that it's your beliefs about yourself and life, most of which are unconscious, that totally determine our behavior, our emotions, our reality, everything. Mm-hmm. So your job as a parent, and I can do this in role plays, and I don't know how many people have heard me speak, it's what I usually do. But I can get you to see that if your parents weren't attentive or didn't give you attention or listen as a kid, you will conclude I'm not important. And if you have the belief I'm not important, you're not going to put yourself first in life. You're going to put others before you. You're going to get upset when your children ignore you. So instead of saying, Shani, I don't like being ignored, sweetheart. It doesn't feel good. I don't ignore you, and I don't want you to ignore me. Mm-hmm. That's different than, don't you dare ignore me. I'm talking to you. Listen to me. The anger comes from the belief I'm not important getting in your face. Mm. If your child doesn't hit a home run or score a goal, your I'm not good enough comes up in your face. Mm. So our beliefs determine how we parent, and our children's beliefs will determine how their lives turn out, period. Mm-hmm. So if that's true, the most significant, important, profound thing you can do as a parent, excuse me, is to focus on when my child, good grief, when my child walks away from me, mm-hmm. What did they just conclude? What did they say to themselves? Did they walk away saying, I'm a winner, I just made a mistake, and I learned something great? Or did they walk away saying, I'm stupid, I'm a failure, mistakes and failures are bad, I'm not good enough? Mm. So every interaction that you have, and what you say and what you do and your facial expressions, they're asking themselves, why? Why is it that I can't live up to my parents' expectations? Well, I guess I'm not good enough. Mm-hmm. Why is it that she's looking at her iPhone while she's talking to me? Well, I guess I'm not important. Mm-hmm. And because they feel like they're actually seeing that meaning or that belief in the world, it's going to stay with them throughout their lives.
Right.
Now, do I teach a lot of skills and tools to be able to do that? Absolutely. Do other people? Absolutely. But what you want and who you listen to as a parenting guru is very, very, very important. Because if somebody tells you to spank your kid or to show him who's boss, or, Dr. Dobson, the Christian guru, you want to listen to those people, stop and ask yourself, if I do what he's saying to do, what will my kid conclude? That violence is a way to handle things? That I'm powerless? That if I do something wrong, I deserve to be punished? I tell you, that's a belief that more people have than you would think. People say to me, why do I sabotage myself? I never let myself be successful or have, and I used to think, sabotage, what does that even mean? And then I realized people actually do sabotage themselves because they have the belief, if I do something wrong, I deserve to be punished. That's from childhood.
Yeah.
Okay. So having said that, this is how you don't have stress. This is how you get rid of all your stress. This is the tool. Okay? So I want to ask everyone a question. If somebody comes into a room that you know and doesn't speak to you, what might you automatically think? Anything.
They didn't notice me.
They didn't notice me. Yeah. That's meaning they're rude, they don't like me, I did something wrong. Whatever you came up with, that is meaning. Where did that meaning just come from?
I just assumed that they knew I was there.
Where do you assume from? Where do assume?
My head.
Your head.
Yeah.
All meaning comes from your head, your mind. Okay? So I'm going to make a distinction. Consequences, right? If your child, like my little 3.5-year-old grandson, but a while ago when he was 2, he pulled a hot water down from my daughter made a cup of tea and walked out of the room for a second. He pulled it down. He has burns. That's a consequence, okay? I'm not talking about consequences. I'm talking about meaning. Events, I'm going to go all the way.
Go for it.
I'm
loving it. I'm loving it.
I don't need to put this piece in, but I will. Events have no inherent meaning. Another way of saying that is we don't know anything for sure because something happens. So if you don't kiss me and that means you don't love me, then I now know you don't love me. It has meaning, right? But you never know anything for sure. Now, this is not to be confused with it doesn't matter. Things don't matter. So something may matter, but it has no inherent meaning. I'll give you some examples. I'll give you the most extreme ones because I know people's brains are going nuts. 9/11. So a plane full of people who were terrorists who happened to be Arab and happened to be Muslim hit a building and buildings crashed and people died. Okay? Now, consequences were my girlfriend lost her daughter in the building. That was a terrible consequence. But the events have no meaning. In other words, it doesn't mean all Arabs are terrorists or Muslims are bad or tall buildings are dangerous or will never be safe again. All those meanings come from your mind. So you say it isn't that it doesn't matter. Okay, I care that I lost my husband. There's not a day, not a minute that I don't think of him, that I don't love him, that I don't grieve, that I'm not miserable, that I don't cry. But I go out and I have fun and I have a life because the fact that he died does not mean I'll never be happy again. I'll never get married again. I'll never meet anybody again. It doesn't mean that he didn't love me. There's no meaning inherent in the events.
Right.
Okay? Now, all of our feelings, all of your stress with your children comes from the meaning you give their behavior. Now, do you need skills and tools? Yes. However, if when they do something, a great example is a kid speaks to you a certain way and you get angry. Don't you dare talk to me that way. How dare you talk? What meaning did you give it?
Mm-hmm.
They don't respect me.
Mm-hmm. They're going to grow up to be thus and such, all those stories that we tell ourselves.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
All those meanings.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just show you, let me back up for a second. If you're walking down the street and a man walks past you and it has no meaning, what are you going to feel?
Nothing.
If you give it the meaning he's dangerous, what will you feel?
Very nervous.
If you give it the meaning he's going to protect me, what will you feel?
Wow, that's cool.
You'll feel safe, right?
Yeah.
So events that have no meaning cannot make you feel anything.
Mm.
So if your spouse comes home or your partner comes home and doesn't kiss you hello, and they never kiss you hello, it doesn't mean anything. You're not going to feel anything.
Mm.
If you give it the meaning they don't love me anymore, you'll feel bad. If you give it the meaning they had a hard day, you'll feel compassion.
Mm.
So events that have no meaning can't make you feel anything. Somebody cuts you off. You go, jerk.
Mm-hmm.
You're an asshole.
Yeah.
You gave it the meaning. They don't care about you. They're aggressive. But what if they're going to the hospital?
Exactly.
Or what if they're just love to drive fast or they didn't see you? So events that have no meaning can't make you feel anything.
Mm-hmm.
So let's assume your child speaks to you in a way that you don't like to be spoken to. And you say, well, it could mean they don't respect me. It could also mean that they're upset and they're angry, and people say things when they're angry that they don't mean.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly teenagers. Could mean they're just a teenager and they are taking it out on me because they can't take it out on their friends.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So you come up with one other meaning.
Mm.
Then get that the event has no meaning.
Mm.
Now you could say to your child, as I once did, I do not like being spoken to that way. I actually don't talk to you that way. You cannot tell me to shut up. It is not okay. It doesn't feel good in my body.
Mm-hmm.
You can use iMessages and say anything.
Mm-hmm.
I hate you. I wish you weren't my mother.
Mm-hmm.
I wish you wouldn't keep talking. That is okay for me. These are my values. I don't know what yours are, but these are my values. I hate you right now. Now, does that mean that the kid hates you? Of course not. So if you get rid of the meaning, then you can actually do something that I teach, which is the most powerful thing in life that you could do. Wow, you must be really angry right now to feel like you hate me. I got it. Now she looks at me and she goes, this happened. Mommy, I don't hate you. I'm just mad at you. I said, I got it, Brittany. You're really mad at me. She looks at me. She goes, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at something you did.
Just keeps, shifting. Yeah, I love it.
Or you validate somebody's feeling. You say to somebody, don't you dare talk to me that way. I hate you. I hate you. Don't you dare. This is what you get. Mm-hmm. But if you say to somebody, I got it. You really hate it when I interrupt you, or you hate it when I don't let you eat sugar. You hate it. You wish I wasn't your mother. I got it.
Yeah, we don't put that energy into fighting something that is not even necessarily there. Like you're saying in the example with Brittany, it's like, oh, it wasn't this that she said that you could have said, oh, that's what it means. And I love that. I also just want to emphasize, because you talked about it earlier, how some people get really confused and say, oh, well, this must be the permissive model. This is, so if you're not interpreting meaning, you're saying, oh, it doesn't mean anything. And you're not. What I'm hearing you say and reflecting for our viewers is that as we become aware and we say, wait a minute, this is a meaning I'm giving to this thing that just happened, that, if nothing else could be not true, then we remove that energy, that stress that we get upset about, and we can still speak our truth and say, and I still don't want to be talked to that way. Or when I make dinner, it really is important to me that you try some of the food. Or honey, when you come home, it really matters to me that you say hi to me, or, whatever the thing is. So I love that it's not either or, it's both. And you're so much more empowered to communicate in a way that gets heard. Because to me, that is part about being effective as a parent. If we yell at our children, or we think, oh, I'm going to teach them who's boss, if they tune us out, our message doesn't get in anyway. So it's much more important to think about, well, wait a minute, if I do what you're talking about, if I'm aware of these things, and then I communicate in a non-threatening way, in a way that is rooted over here, I'm not making anybody wrong. I'm saying, and this is what I want from you. This is what I want in our relationship. That's so much easier for our children to hear. And what a model for them as they grow, to be able to share with their people that they're in relationship, whether it's a friend or a teacher or a spouse ultimately, or their own children, of course. So to me, it's magical to do that.
And do not tell your children that events have no meaning at all, ever, because they will not make the distinction between something has no meaning and something doesn't matter. So if you have sex with the football team, that will have a consequence. But when you're little, you can't make that distinction.
Right. So I think you can teach some of those, can't you, though, as they grow, so start to help them say, I hear a lot of language where parents will say, you do this, that makes Johnny sad that you took his toy. And I'm like, don't say that. You can't make Johnny sad. So I think through those kind of changes and the way we language things, we can help at those younger ages.
Well, you can take it to where I usually take it when I teach it. I don't usually take it to events have no meaning. I just take it that event had no meaning. So if your child comes home hysterical because they weren't invited to a birthday party, or they didn't hit a home run, you can say the fact that you didn't hit a home run doesn't mean that you're not a good baseball player. It doesn't mean you're going to get kicked off the team. Michael Jordan was kicked off his basketball team as a sophomore, didn't make the team, but then became the best player in the world. So the event itself doesn't mean anything.
Gotcha.
But just don't take it to events.
So keep it that specific. Hey, honey, I know you're feeling upset. This thing doesn't mean, or I hear that you think this, and here are some other
possibilities.
Yeah, it could mean that your friend was sick, or or they wanted to play with the other friend, or their parents said you couldn't come. So yeah.
But we don't know anything for sure about you, because that just happened.
Yeah. I love that. I love that, Shelly. And I would love to talk to you for hours and hours and hours. And we have time that we want to honor for all of us. So I simply want to invite you to say, is there anything else that we've not touched on for right now that you think would be valuable for our viewers to know at this moment?
Yes.
Okay.
So thank you, Sean. You're absolutely awesome.
Thank you.
My new favorite. You're just wonderful. And that's a very bad way to praise kids, so don't do that. I just don't.
We sort of like it, though.
What I said was, you are so clear in, I should have been very specific about what it is that I like about you.
Thank you. I'll take them both, so thank you.
What you do with kids is acknowledge, don't praise. So, I could give you 8 hours to 20 hours of information, but here's what I want to leave you with. If you look at your own lives, I had a client who told me, my boss keeps telling me if I don't make mistakes and fail, he's going to fire me. And I just can't do it. I can't. And he had the belief mistakes and failures are bad, and if I make a mistake or fail, I'll be rejected. And those beliefs are very common. And in today's world, you want to raise innovative children who are not afraid to fail. Larry Page and Sergey Brin, who own Google, said, we don't want you if you are afraid to make mistakes, right? We wish we could create our own schools because kids come out of school afraid to make mistakes and fail, and we don't want you at Google. So here's the thing. Our beliefs determine what we do, what we feel, what we say, how we are in life. If you believe I'm not good enough and I'm not lovable and I'm not important, that will have a very big impact on how you live your life. So your children's future is significantly impacted by the beliefs that they're forming right now in your homes. So when you have an interaction with your children, when they walk away from you, stop and ask, what did they just conclude? What did they say to themselves? Is that a belief that I want them to have? And then the second question is, at what cost? At what cost must they go to bed at 7 o'clock? Must they do their chores before they do their homework or after they do, at what cost? If it's a cost of them concluding I'm powerless or what I want doesn't matter, it is never, almost, unless it's safety, it's not worth it. So you have to get creative and brainstorm and have family meetings and, brainstorm. Your kids will come up with solutions better than you ever will. They'll make your job so easy, and the other thing I just want to leave you with is, if somebody said to you, you are going to be responsible for the emotional, physical, spiritual, intellectual development of a human being, would you say, piece of cake? And yet, people don't feel that they have to be trained to do this job. Are you kidding me? Now, I think, for me, this is the manual. It just is. This will tell you how to raise a successful child. And by successful, I mean what Chani means. Successful with a rich, full life, free to self-express, be who they are, not worry about what people think of them, be confident in life, and live their excellent adventure. I think that's it. But if you don't want mine and you want to go buy somebody else's, I don't care. As long as you get trained to know what comes out of your mouth. Because watch. Go ahead, Shani, I'm listening. Yep, no, I hear you.
Yeah.
That's different than, honey, what you have to say to me is very important and I can't listen right now. As soon as I finish this email, you'll have my undivided attention. They still didn't get your attention, but they're not walking away saying I'm not important, or what I have to say is not important.
Yeah.
So be conscious always of what they're concluding and learn the skills and tools that will help you say things to your children and be with them in a way that empowers them to create the beliefs that you want them to have. I'm capable. I don't know how to do it, but I can learn. I'm good enough. I'm important. I matter. What I want matters. I don't always get what I want, but it matters.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Yeah. Oh, it's so rich. It's so rich. And there really aren't words to say how much it means. For me, I want to share something that you're sharing with our viewers momentarily. And at this moment, I really want to say from my own experience, this to me is the essence of what I'm striving to do as a parent. And because I do recognize how important it is as a recovering perfectionist, people pleaser, I totally get it. And yesterday, my daughter, she wallowed in mud in the garden and we had this interaction. I'm going to share it very briefly. She was just feet and hands muddy. She was in her pajamas, feet and hands muddy. And she kept saying, I really want to put my butt in this puddle. She said, my butt is longing to be in the puddle, which I thought was hilarious. And I was like, I don't really want you to do that. So we went back and forth a few times. And after about 10 minutes, she said it again. And I said, yeah, I don't want you to do it. Cause she mentioned, I think you're going to get a face and like, you're not going to be happy with me basically. And I said, yeah, I don't want you to do it. And I said, I appreciate that you're concerned about what I want. And you know what? It's also important to know that sometimes what other people want doesn't matter at all. And she was like, okay, plunk into the mud puddle. Because in that moment, I certainly don't always do it. And in that moment, though, I was really aware of she's going to make, and she is making conclusions all through this experience. And so I want her to honor me and respect what I want. And at the same time, I also really want her to be able to have that discernment to know, yeah, when am I going to choose to say yes to somebody's request? And when am I going to say, I hear you, and that doesn't matter to me. So thank you for giving me tools and sharing tools and simply a way of being and thinking about our relationships. And I could go on and on with the thank yous. So I want to shift momentarily. I want to tell viewers, Shelly has a wonderful gift. It's an audio download of 10 things that we parents do to sabotage our kids' success and happiness in the future. So you'll be able to get that with the links that we're providing. So please do that. If you don't know Shelly's work, please at least do that for yourself so you can you've experienced it today, but you can really directly experience it. And it really has been my deep pleasure and honor. So thank you. It was a lot of fun. And anytime you want to talk for a few hours, let me know. I'd love to talk.
Thank you, Shawnee. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
This is Shawnee Lavender, wishing you many moments of joy and ease in your day. Thanks for being part of the Thriving Family Summit.